Kia ora everybody and welcome back to Civilization 5. My name is JumboPixel and today I'm going to take you through a civ guide. This time it's Brazil. So Brazil is a very interesting and fascinating civ in Civ 5 and one that I've played with quite a bit lately, so I'm feeling quite knowledgeable in the subject, although I made a few errors along the way, so let me help you out. Let's start off with what Brazil does best. So, as you can see, I'll leave it up in the top right of the screen for the first few minutes of the video, but Carnival is Brazil's main thing. So what does Carnival do? Well, it provides plus 100% tourism output during a golden age. Also, during a golden age, you will earn great artists, musicians, and writers 50% faster. So Brazil is all about its golden ages. It's about Carnival. It's about not only creating golden ages through excess happiness, but also extending the length of your golden ages and trying to be in a golden age as much as you possibly can. Now, I'll cover off the strategy to do with that later on in this video, but there are two other things that I want to cover first, and that is, of course, Brazil's unique unit and tile improvement. Brazil's unique unit is the Pracinha, which replaces the infantry. You can see some information for it on screen right about now. This unit is not one to be messed with, but you do get it quite late in the game, so you may not get to fully utilize it. It's unlocked with plastics. It upgrades from Great War infantry and into mechanized infantry, so it fits into that middle slot. Now, the unique thing about it is that it provides additional point towards a golden age when it kills an enemy unit. So you can not only build up towards golden ages with happiness, but also by getting kills, doing damage with your Pracinha. Now, I will add a slight caveat that it doesn't provide points while you're in a golden age, while you're in a Carnival. So it's only useful when you're outside of one. Something to bear in mind if you're trying to game the system a little bit and think, okay, I've got a golden age coming up, so I'm going to declare war now, use my units to build up to one really quickly, and then transition out of the war. It's something to bear in mind and something that not all players consider. Now, the Brazilwood Camp has, I would argue, a few more use cases. So let me throw up some information on the screen now and let's go through it. So as you can see, it's unlocked with machinery, so it's unlocked very early in the game, and it can only be built on jungle terrain. And I have two things to note about that. Firstly, it doesn't destroy the jungle terrain, so it keeps that intact if you're looking to get any kind of bonuses with that, unlike, say, a tile improvement like a mine, which would require you to chop down the jungle. The second thing is that Brazil, thankfully, has a start bias towards jungle. So you should see jungle, if not at your capital, at the very least near you, i.e. your second city and your third city should have an adequate amount of jungle nearby. Now, initially, the Brazilwood Camp provides +2 culture. That is quite significant in the early game, but you might want to be prioritizing food and production initially, so you may not work the Brazilwood Camps. However, as you move through the game, they become better and better and better. In particularly, of course, because they're jungle tiles, later in the game, those jungle tiles also provide science. Right? So you can get science from the tiles, but let's talk about actually what the improvement itself provides. So it provides +2 culture, as I've said, and then after you unlock acoustics, it also provides +2 gold. Now, again, it's worth mentioning that as you move through the game and through the, particularly the cultural policies, you'll start to see some multipliers be added to that. So, once you get, say, hotels, for example, you'll not only be getting +2 culture, but also 50% of that in tourism. So you'll get 2 culture and 1 tourism. Right the way through, of course, you can end up getting double 100% bonus with the National Intelligence Agency. And like I say, various policies feeding in, and also wonders too, right? Not just policies, but wonders. So there are some wonders that provide, say, 50% culture in a city. That is also added to the tile improvements. So do focus on your buildings and your cultural policies, and I would recommend that you build some Brazilwood camps, particularly as you move through into the late game and start getting science from jungle as well. Now we know what Brazil does, let's talk strategy. And I know I covered it a bit at the start, but really we do have to begin with the Carnival, the Golden Age. So, while in a golden age, you receive any tile that's worked that gives gold gives an additional gold. So your Brazilwood camps are giving you an additional gold, for example. You're receiving plus 20% production in cities, and culture overall also an additional 20%. And of course, because of Brazil's unique bonus, your tourism output receives plus 100%, so that's doubled, and you're earning your cultural great people 50% faster, which is massive. Brazil is very strongly, therefore, favoured towards a cultural and tourism victory. And you can see on screen, that's what I'm working towards whenever I play Brazil. In this case, it was a one-city challenge with a rather tragic ending. Shout out to the Devilish the War Stick in those videos, which you can check out on the channel if you want to watch that playthrough. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on with Brazil's strategy. So culture, as far as cultural victories go, I have to probably give Brazil a 10 out of 10. The strat here is to push hard along near the top of the tech tree. Obviously, acoustics is really important for you for two reasons. Firstly, because it improves Brazilwood Camp, and secondly, because it unlocks vital cultural buildings and wonders. You're going to want to play a cultural game with Brazil. You're going to want to rely on your Brazilwood camps to produce culture, your buildings to produce culture, and fundamentally, and I can't stress this enough, your great people. Your great people generation during Carnival, 50% bonus, is massive. That is really, really significant. So you're going to want to build your cultural buildings to ensure you have enough slots to harness those great people, and then start using them to produce great works. The only exception being you may want to keep a few great musicians around, because you can send them into enemy territory to perform rock concerts or similar, and that will provide you with a significant boost to tourism that will hopefully push that tourism victory over the line for you. Now, transitioning into the last part of this video, and as you can just see on screen there if you were quick, I'd like to talk about wonders, ideology, social policies, which tie into that victory condition. And hopefully you'll be in a much more victorious condition than I am here, struggling against the deity AI with my one city cultural challenge where they randomly declare war on me. Anyway, in terms of wonders, there are a few key ones that I want to point out to you. The Museum of Halicarnassus is an ancient era, yikes, an ancient era wonder. It provides plus 100 gold whenever you expend a great person. So there's some synergy there with your massive great writer, artist, and musician generation, because you're going to be expending them a lot. The Hanging Gardens is useful for food, which equals growth, which equals science. If you want to hear more about that, I have a whole video on the relationship between food, growth, and science on my channel, so do check that out. But moving on to continue to talk about wonders, I think that the Sistine Chapel and Uffizi, the two big cultural wonders from the Renaissance era, are definitely worth checking out. And then a few more that I would add. As you move through into the modern era, you're probably going to want to try and grab Broadway and Christ the Redeemer. And then toward the later game, probably just the CN Tower in the Information era is that really fundamentally key one. Ideologies, you will have seen me go for freedom. Freedom is fundamental and a fundamental part of Brazil's strategy, and it is the final thing that I will focus in on in this video, other than just a quick note about religion. I do think you should try and get a religion as Brazil. There are a few useful things, even if you just grab a pantheon like fertility rites, which provides just that base additional growth, or Sacred Path. Sacred Path is probably the strongest pantheon for Brazil, seeing as Brazilwood camps become worth 3 culture with acoustics, in addition to their other yields and more tourism later. So if you decide to use some trading posts on your jungles instead of the extra science from free thought, you'd still have a little culture and hence tourism as you move through. So do think about maybe picking up Sacred Path or falling back on fertility rites. Anyway, let's move into the last part of the video where I'm going to cover off ideology, because it really matters with Brazil, and that's why I'm giving it special attention in this guide. Bam! Down the bottom of your screen you can see the freedom tree, and I'm just going to leave that there as I talk through the different policies you're going to want to get. So, at level 1, along that top tier, you're definitely going to want the first one there, Avant-Garde. So, as I've covered, you can only improve your great person generation by bonuses like Avant-Garde. So you'll pretty much immediately fill up with artists, musicians, and writer slots as long as they're workable. And so this one should definitely be your first tenant. Next up, universal healthcare is the next one I would recommend. Building tall should encourage you to build most, if not all, wonders, including the heroic epic. Universal healthcare is really going to help you build up tall by sort of providing you with additional growth and the extra happiness, right? So the reduced unhappiness, the extra happiness will help you get to your golden ages faster. Finally, in that first tier, I would recommend civil society. It does take a really massive city to work all of the Brazilwood camps. So bigger cities equal more people, equal more great tiles worked. And that will give you a lot more science, which can push you towards the technologies that you need, particularly as we think about the later game. You probably want globalization. Really, the key thing about freedom is that universal suffrages bonus, which makes golden age length longer. So in tier 2, you're definitely going to want to get universal suffrage. I would also recommend volunteer army. I learnt this lesson the hard way, but one of the main reasons is because the foreign legions upgrade into your unique unit. So top tip, make sure you grab volunteer army. And then finally at level 3, media culture is the huge one. It's a nice, easy, universally applied bonus to tourism. If you have a base tourism of, let's say, 10, and you have broadcast towers in all of your cities, this makes 13 and 27 in a golden age. So you can really see it's almost a 3 times multiplier with broadcast towers in a golden age with media culture, and that should definitely be the final thing that you get. Otherwise, I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching this Brazil guide. I hope you learned something new. Do let me know down below in the comments, by the way, if you learned anything new or picked up any top tips, and otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.